Hello, everyone, and welcome back to live coverage of Dreamhack Dallas. My name's Riley, and I'm joining you for the first time today, all the way from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, where it is raining. I don't know what we power taxes for. And joining me on the other end of the line, it's Noah. Noah, great to have you along, and good to be back with you once again. Second time we've worked on one of these RCs together. Very excited that we get to have another crack at it, mate.
Yeah, Riley, I'm so happy to be back here to bring some coverage to the folks with you. Today we get to look at some sweet Modern matches, and Modern's changed up a bit with, new sets coming in, some new bands, so I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, we'll have a chat about exactly what's going on with the Modern format. It's a format that I've followed for a very, very long time. I'd say it's probably my favorite competitive format, and so I'm excited to see what's in store for us as we round out the day's coverage, of course. But let's remind ourselves of why we're here and what we're doing as part of this tournament, what's up for grabs, and how this tournament is structured. You can see, as we've already said, the format is Modern. We're covering 9 rounds today. I believe we've still got 3 to go. So Noah and I will be walking you through them. And then pretty standard top 8 as far as competitive Magic is concerned. Fans of competitive Magic will know how it works. The single elimination playoff. The modified play draw rule referring to the fact that whoever is the highest seed gets to decide whether they are on the play or on the draw. We've seen this before, but we still have a lot left to discover when it comes to this specific iteration of the Modern format. And of course, a lot on the line. Let's talk about what's up for grabs for these players. $30,000. $30,000 for the player in first, half that for second, half again for third and fourth, all the way down to a 64th place prize payout of 100 smackaroos. A Benji for turning up and getting to 64th place. Not too bad. But of course, the real prize, $30,000, isn't really, obviously a nice thing to walk away with. But can you put a price, Noah, on a qualification for the World Championship, particularly the 30th World Championship? This is going to be huge, of course, happening later this year. And also, we've got Pro Tour invites and further regional championship invites to give away. So while the money's nice, I know the people who are chasing glory, or the glory hounds out there, know they'll be looking at those invites as one of the big reasons for them to do well in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very easy to qualify for a Pro Tour these days. You can kind of string together some RC qualifications with top 48s, but those top 32 spots are really, really pivotal for a lot of these grinders just really trying to make it to the Pro Tour. And of course, like you said, Riley, you can't put a price on the World Championship. I mean, that's always been one of my personal dreams in Magic is being lucky enough to get to play in the World Championship. So for these top 2 players, they're going to be really, really excited about that. I can only imagine.
It is a great shame that they've dropped normally they use the Roman numerals to enumerate which World Championship we're heading into. It is a great shame that they seem to have dropped that this year, although an understandable one, I think it's fair to say. But the World Championship 30 coming up later this year, and 2 players from this tournament will be sent there. We're going to find out who. But we've still got a lot of Magic to play before we do, and we're going to jump into coverage of our next round here, round number 7. Kicking things off with a deck that I think is, roughly speaking, sort of towards the top end of the format. It seems to be very heavily represented at the moment, not just here in Denver, but also I've been keeping an eye on the Japanese RC over in Yokohama. This is one of the most popular decks over there as well. Living End, talk to us about this deck, Noah.
Yeah, I mean, Living End, really classic strategy of just get these beefy creatures into your graveyard by cycling them or land cycling them, hit into this Living End off of one of your Cascade spells, bring them all back, kill all your opponent's creatures. I think it's in a really good place in a format that is so heavily dominated by a lot of creature decks. So I'm really happy to see William bringing this deck. And I also think that it's one of the decks that really gets a lot out of these new Surveil lands, because you're not really spending too much of your mana doing anything other than cycling for the first couple of turns, and you can also put stuff from the top of your deck into your graveyard to set up your Living Ends. So I think, we see these Surveil lands really making their way into almost every Modern deck right now. They have at least 1 or 2, but I think this is one of the decks that's going to really, really take advantage of that.
Yeah, the fact that these are fetchable with fetch lands is just huge. The Temples, I remember the Temples from the original Theros block. They were fantastic, but never quite made the jump into... they saw a little bit of fringe play in Modern, but the fact that these Surveil lands obviously not only put a card in the bin, but also can be fetched up with the Misty Rainforest or whatever, a key aspect of this living end deck that has been around for a long time. It's chopped and changed over the years. The cyclers have become a lot better than they used to be, and seems to be in a very good position. So we'll see what William can do with this. But his opponent, oh boy, got a spicy one on the other side of the table here in the hands of Nathaniel Perigo. We've got Izzet Merfolk. Izzet Merfolk? Yes, indeed it is. What looks like a pretty classic Merfolk core here, but we're splashing red for cards like Flame of Arnor from the Lord of the Rings set. So we got some real spice here. No.
Yeah, Flame of Arnor, incredible card, especially when you have so many wizards like this Merfolk list does. We saw Nathaniel earlier on camera just really taking advantage of the Flame of Arnor in his deck and just showing the power of this build. So I'm excited to watch it in action again.
I just had a quick check to see, because I was like, oh yeah, how many wizards are there actually? Nearly every single Merfolk in this list is a wizard. Vidalian Hexcatcher, Tideshaper, Silvergill Adept is a wizard as well. Who knew?
Yep.
Shanna's Sidebinder, Merfolk Trickster. So if there is a creature out on the battlefield, there's a good chance that Flame of Arnor is going to be fully juiced here. So yeah, a key card and well worth the red splash in this Merfolk deck. Let's head into the match and see how these two go here. Nathaniel on Izzet Merfolk, William on Living End. William on the left-hand side of your screen here. And we're going to kick things off. Coverage of Dreamhack Magic from Denver continues with me, Riley Knight, and my friend and colleague Noah Walker on the line as well. So great to have your company. Thanks for sticking with us here as we head into coverage of round number 7. These two players at 5-1. So still well and truly in the conversation towards the top of the standings. And we're expecting a handful of undefeated players by the end of day number 1, right? A lot of players turning up to battle, but we should have a couple of players at the end of the day who haven't picked up a loss.
Yeah, there should be at least one or two undefeated players by the end of Swiss, I'd imagine.
All right, we've got an Ether Vial on turn number 1 for Nathaniel. Perfect start for him. William's going to go fetching with this Misty Rain for us. Maybe we're going to see one of these new Surveil lands. Maybe we'll see Edge Maze or Thundering Falls. Nope, just a Steam Fence, and that probably indicates that William has something to cycle here.
Yeah, that is the great part of these Surveil lands in his deck, right? It's like you were saying, Riley, like, yeah, maybe he's going to fetch up a Surveil land right here, use it. But it's just like a great failsafe for when he doesn't have something to cycle particularly, or has an extra mana left over that he'd be fetching with. So,
well, that's right. It's not uncommon in a game of Modern to crack a fetch without anything to spend the mana on. You're just going to get a shock land and save yourself 2 life. But here, being able to get a bit of extra value out of that fetch where you don't require the extra mana. It's only small. We're kind of making it into this big, huge, game-changing point, but it definitely does make a difference. Okay.
Yeah. What?
So,
it's the Hexcatcher.
We are seeing here the Vidalian Hexcatcher, and cannot target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1, or is it just being flashed in?
Yeah, he's just flashing it in the turn
as well. But the way he picked it up made it seem like he was sacrificing it, but no, I don't think that's the case.
But it is just a very strong card in this matchup. It forces William to, cast a Living End on turn 4 at the earliest.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, a little force spike against a deck that is, all in sort of on a single non-creature spell. Always a useful thing to have. All right, we're going to see another big creature hit the battlefield here in the graveyard in the form of Waker of Waves. It's being kind of cycled away, not quite, but discarded to put a card into William's hand from the top of the deck. Now back to Nathaniel, who is going to play. We've got here a.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the art. Yeah, Riley out here trying to figure out what the card is. I was thinking the same thing. What is that?
It's not a Shanna's Tidebinder.
No, it looks like maybe Tideshaper. Wait, Tideshaper with Kicker. Yeah, I think he kicked
Tideshaper with Kicker. There we go. All right, I was looking through the 2 drops. So I'm thinking, hang on, but no, Tideshaper with Kicker. You've saved the broadcast, Noah.
I was wondering the same thing. I was like, I think maybe it's like a retro art or something, because I really just did not recognize the art at all.
Yeah, I think it's the old bordered frame there, and that's going to make that forest into an island. And there's the Master of the Pearl Trident as well. Man, Merfolk gets some really good lords.
Yeah, these new lords are like they're really not messing around, and even as we see Master of the Pearl Trident, like the old school ones, like just all of these Merfolk lords have always been just at a great rate for the deck. As like in the this year, we're still seeing the cards being incredibly powerful. So that is just a testament to Merfolk in general.
Yeah, Merfolk have been getting the chop out recently for sure. These creatures coming in, I don't even have the calculating power to figure out what their power and toughness is. There are 3 lords, plus the fact that the Tide Shaper gets +1/+1 because of the opposing island. I think this could just be lethal. I'll be like, sure, yeah, okay, that's fine. That makes sense.
This one is for sure.
An Aethervial activation as well, and another lord comes down. All of these creatures getting +4
because they're all 5s, right? Or 6, or yeah.
Oh, at this point, have we figured out how many numbers? Have we figured out?
It was actually exactly 15.
Look at that, William Heiser not even getting the ability, not even getting the option to play a spell. He activated like 3 abilities of various cards, Noah, and that is game number 1 going to Nathaniel Perigo. What an incredible performance from that Merfolk deck, hey?
I mean, you see my face. Like I'm as surprised, as William was there. Like, he's like, yeah, like I should be fine here. I can just play my sap land. Next turn I'm gonna go off with, a living end, and he's like, nah, this is actually 15.
Yeah, you're actually dead right here, right now.
Like
take all that damage off of your mana base. But I think we're seeing something here that is emerging because of maybe some of the greed in Modern at the moment when it comes to mana base, when it comes to people stretching to, 3, 4, 5 color ambitious mana bases. Decks that are streamlined and can unload a huge amount of damage very quickly can do very well. Burn, for instance, is a deck that I think is positioned pretty well at the moment. And Merfolk does have those starts where they can put a lot of pressure on and also keep up a fair bit of disruption. This is the classic tempo strategy. So a great start here for Nathaniel. Unsurprising that he's 5-1 if his deck's doing those sorts of things for him.
Yeah, totally. Nathaniel been playing really well, having these good draws. He had Temur Aethervial, exactly what you want for the deck. The Hexcatcher, as I said, really great in the matchup, had it on 2. You, as the Merfolk deck, you're going to really need to be curving out against Living End deck because, if you're kind of playing the Drago game, especially in game 1, you won't really be able to get too far ahead. So that game played out exactly in the way that Nathaniel was hoping for.
All right, let's jump into game number 2 and see if Nathaniel can string together a back-to-back victory with his Merfolk list here. Very, very convincing performance in game number 1. Can he do it again? So, William, unsurprising to see those Ingot Chewers being brought in, a really useful card against Aethervial, which I think is in Nathaniel's hand there as he mulligans to 6.
Yeah, really heads up bring in here from William. The best card in Nathaniel's deck from his perspective has got to be Aethervial in this matchup, just because you can kind of choose how you want to apply your pressure, put stuff in instant speed in combat like we saw him do there for lethal, or like end of turn stuff, or even after like a living end resolves, flashing a creature into play. So this Ingot Chewer, I think,
the amount of mana that it saves you as well is just huge here. Architects of Will, another cycle. A couple of them going to the bin, and there's that Thundering Falls. Looks like William's going to keep a card on top. Aethervial goes to 1, and Nathaniel with a Chalice of the Void here. Another huge card. Now, Ingot Chewer does answer this. This is another really important card that Ingot Chewer answers. But Chalice of the Void on 0 is backbreaking if unanswered against Living End.
Yeah, totally. Probably one of the best cards Nathaniel could have. Really unfortunate for him that William has this Ingot Chewer in combination with like some other Cascade spells, because then when the Ingot Chewer comes back into play, he'll also be able to kill this Aethervial. So just a really nasty combo there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Chalice of the Void, chewed up by the Ingot Chewer. But that does slow William down by a turn, and we've seen what difference a turn can make in these situations. All right. Mist Caller, the play here for Nathaniel. Interesting thing about some of these cards that have abilities where they sacrifice themselves, like Mist Caller, you can put them in the bin before the Living End resolves, right? So even with your Vidalian Hexcatcher, even if they can pay the 1 for the Force Spike effect, just sacrificing it in response to the to the living end can mean that you have, you know, an extra body on board, which is always useful.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, Mistcaller just kind of counters living end by itself, right?
I didn't even think about that aspect of it.
It's like I wasn't even like looking at the list. I wasn't thinking that he just had, you know, Nathaniel had these main deck cards in his deck that just shut off the
Shuts it
like,
off. I was just like, oh, it can sacrifice itself in response, right? That's always useful.
yeah.
You know, I'm thinking about cards that can do that. You know, like you got a Viscera out and they can just never cast their living end because you can ruin them. Whereas
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I was just
Mistcaller is kind of the same. I mean, at least, you know, casting living end, it still will destroy all of Nathaniel's creatures. So
yeah,
it's not horrible by any means to if you're William to want to resolve a living end in this scenario. But you know, it's not as good as it seems. And then the Mistcaller comes back into play after you sacrifice it from the living end. So it's like it kind of sets up.
We're going for it. William Huss is going for it here. Going to cascade into maybe has he got other cascade cards that he's sideboarded in perhaps? No, it's going to be living end. And what's in the bin? Immature, 2 Architects of Will, and a Street Wraith. But Nathaniel can just activate this this Mistcaller, as we, you know, so expertly pointed out from the very beginning. No, this is a card that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, Mistcaller is a tough one here, and I mean, if you're William, you know,
facing down. No, the Mistcaller doesn't come back. I think it will be exiled by its own ability.
Oh, and if any creature, if a non took. Oh wait, that's super cool. Yeah, so Mistcaller doesn't come back. My apologies. But you know, William put in a tough spot anyways. Like he knows that there's a Mistcaller in play that more or less counters the majority of a living end, but he kind of just has to go for the Violent Outburst anyways in the face of this Chalice on 0.
Oh boy. So Chalice on 0, Aether Vial in, another Lord. Mutavault also attacking for 100 billion here. William on 10. Nathaniel's deck has been firing on all cylinders here and has been running rings around this living end deck. So Subtlety. Subtlety can't counter the Lord of Atlantis because it was brought in with the Aether Vial. So now an attack with everything.
Wait, that's 10? 4, 7. Oh yeah, wait.
With 2 Lords out, that is enough. William, unfortunately, being taken apart limb from limb there by the Merfolk deck. Holy moly, that was blink and you'll miss it magic. The Merfolk deck did an incredible job of just completely pulling the pants down of this living end deck. It just didn't look like it was in it even a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Nathaniel came to the tournament. He said, "Look, I have 3 Mistcallers in my main deck. Like, I'm here to game. Playing living end, I don't care.
Yeah,
couldn't care less.
I just don't care. The deck's done really well from so far. Well done to Nathaniel. A very a surgical deck choice that is in that matchup certainly shone. So I imagine he'll be looking for more of that. I believe we're going to jump into another match here. Looking at the schedule that I've put in front of me here, we've got a game between 4 Color Control. Looking forward to seeing that, and Temur Rhinos. So another cascade list here. No, we'll be able to jump into this as soon as it's ready. Head down back to our feature match area and see what's up between these 2 players. These players both undefeated, 6-0 here. Jay Washachowski and Mac Endrest here. See Mac on the left-hand side of your screen, the Temur Rhinos list. And 4 Color Control in the hands of Jay on the right. Game number 3, these players tied up at 1-1. Only one of them will continue their onslaught here, their undefeated run in Denver. Let's have a chat about some of the changes that have taken place here in the Rhinos list. We're calling this Temur Rhinos. It kind of is it, we're the full 5 color here because we've got Leyline of the Guild Pact.
Yeah, I mean, you know, technically speaking, we're 5 colors. You know, it is a leyline binding deck anyway, so like you're probably gonna have a black source in your deck. But yeah, Leyline of Guild Pact, really interesting addition to this deck. Honestly, not something that I would have expected to be so strong, but just turning on all of the subtypes for Scion of Draco, as well as just smoothing out your mana base and pitching to something like Force of Negation, I think just kind of gave it a nod for a lot of these players. So really interesting take on the Rhinos deck. I like it a lot.
We're seeing more and more of Scion of Draco. I saw it in a really sweet calibrated blast list that's being played over in Japan. Yeah, this card is huge. Obviously, it comes down for just 2 mana if you've got something like the Leyline of the Guild packed out. We've seen how powerful domain effects are. One of the best pieces of removal in the format is Leyline Binding, and the Rhinos list looking to utilize again the seemingly pretty easy way that you can stuff all 5 colors into a deck these days.
Yeah, totally. Really pushing the color pie, just trying to play the most powerful cards that they can in those colors that are also efficient and cost 3 or more.
On the other side of things, this 4-color control list, it's a Kahira deck. It's only creatures, Solitude, Subtlety, and of course, Omnath, Locus of Creation. But it's not. This is not your grandpa's control list. A lot of sorcery speed removal. Some cheap planeswalkers, of course. We've got the 4 copies of Counterspell. Don't you worry about that. But no, look, Supreme Verdict is back in the mix. The One Ring, a really, really key way to make sure that you don't fall too far behind. That 1 turn of protection can be super, super important. It's been a long time since we've seen 4 drops have such a huge impact in Modern in the way that the One Ring has. But we're back. We're back in having a hugely powerful 4-drop dictate a lot of what goes on in the format. Anyway, a Cascade here from Shardless Agent sees Crashing Footfalls, but that's going to meet a Counterspell from Jay. Just the Grey Ogre for him to contend with. And Ren and 6, the play for the control player.
Yeah, I mean, really good run out here for Jay. Him just being able to keep, Mac's pressure to a minimum in these early turns of the game is just super important for his deck with 4 copies of the One Ring, 3 copies of Supreme Verdict, just a lot of real heavy hitters as we go into these later stages of the game. So Mac is going to need to do some serious lifting from this stage.
Jay's deck also playing 1 copy of the Anuragda special Cosmic Rebirth.
Ooh.
So
card.
Can bring back, a fetch land or something like that, but can also bring back a Planeswalker. Red and 6 can bring back Teferi. Can bring back Chalice if you really need it on 0.
Not a bad card. Really spicy one.
Yeah.
I'm really digging Jay's sideboard, the old 2 Dovin's Veto, 13 one-ofs. See that's grandpa approved for sure. He's not, that's a nod.
That's a sideboard. Very, very scientific sideboard.
Yeah, exactly.
From Jay. Needs exactly 1 copy of Cryptic Code. 2, that's too many.
Yeah,
1,
exactly.
All right. In comes the Shardless Agent. Back over to Jay now. Red and 6 tick up, but no, says Mac. How about a Tishana's Tidebinder here?
What a nasty card! Like I think that is like one of the newer cards that I've been the most impressed with every single time that I see it. It's just like a 3-mana 3/2 with flash is already just really, really strong stats, and then it just has like a bunch of extra words on it that are all super, super advantageous for like any of these tempo strategies. Shutting off an activated ability or triggered ability, and then also like just stopping the permanent from working for as long as it's in play. Just so powerful.
Yeah, it's so brutal, particularly against something like Cascade as well, where it's better than a counter. Well, it's I guess the same as a counter spell, but it's so flexible. Stifle is in a great spot at the moment in the Modern format, and so now Leyline Binding is met with another Leyline Binding, and so it doesn't. Jay's one doesn't even get to remove something from combat here, and now Mac providing the beatdown, and Ren and 6 now just essentially Pithing Needled, correct?
Yeah, so until the Tishana's Tidebinder leaves play, this Ren and 6 can't use any of its abilities.
Yeah. A reminder, of course, that the stream is brought to you by Heavy Play. If you're looking for new accessories, head over to Heavy Play and check out things like the ETB Playmat line, an innovative take on playmat design. It's got a hardback playmat that keeps your cards secure during gameplay and makes traveling with all your cards and accessories very, very easy. all the heavy play gear connects together seamlessly. 10% off as well for viewers of this stream using code Denver2024. Thank you very much to Heavy Play for sponsoring this broadcast. It is great to have you along. And we strongly recommend that viewers of the stream go out and have a look at what Heavy Play's got on offer, because you're sure to find something that you're going to like there. So 10% off, Denver 2024, Heavy Play. Thank you very much for supporting this stream and supporting live broadcasts of competitive Magic.
Yo, totally. Like, I am so hyped to be here casting this. I'm so hyped to see, these sweet matches. And it's just a huge thanks to Heavy Play for helping us out with that. So if you're a competitive Magic player these days, I would totally recommend checking out their products. They look really sick to me. So
Jay plays a Solitude and beefs it up with a Kahira now, offering that life total a little bit.
Yeah, I was worried for a second for this game for Jay. Like, if he didn't have a good string of spells, it looked like Mac was going to be able to just run away with the game with the pressure that he had. Shutting down this Renin 6, just beats for 5 for a while. So, I mean, this is kind of huge.
Yeah, the Solitude is locking things down nicely. In comes the attack from the Shardless Agent, and a Violent Outburst is the play here for Mac. Presumably, he'll fetch another Rhino, or a pair of Rhinos, I should say. Unless Jay has a way to prevent that from happening. Right, Crashing Footfalls resolves.
Heads up play here from Jay as well. He chose not to block with his 4/3 Solitude on the 2/2 Shardless Agent, playing around specifically Violent Outburst. So really heads up, no block there.
Yeah, sniffing it out there. That was obviously a potential upside for that attack from Mac there. He could have got an extra bit of value over it, but no, Jay's not taking the bait. And the Solitude lives to fight another day. And now we're going to see Boseiju on Mac's Leyline Binding, which will free up Jay's Leyline Binding, which will then come into play and be able to exile something. Mac, of course, gets a land as a consolation prize here. Still 3 cards in hand for Mac, so he's got plenty of resources. Hallowed Fountain into play untapped, and away goes a Rhino. Renin 6. Oh man, that's so brutal. Ticking up to fetch back the Boseiju, which can actually kill the Shardless Agent, Noah, because it's an artifact.
Such a nasty combo. I mean, Renin 6, a card that we've seen around for a while in Modern here, and just with the addition of these tricolor lands that cycle, like the Boseiju cycle, or the cycle of lands, I should say.
All the extra
Takenuma, ones like that. It's just so much value that you can get out of your lands.
Yeah, and I remember once they printed it, in addition to the Horizon Canopy lands, the sacrifice draw a card as well. You can get so much value out of that sort of stuff. Cycling, whatever you're doing, Renin 6, such a huge value machine.
Yeah, and then even with the new addition with these Surveil lands, right? Like, it turns the fetch lands that you're getting back with Renin 6 into like even powerful as just fetching for something that isn't getting you value necessarily. It's like crazy value everywhere.
A lot of internal synergy with these mana bases when it comes to Renin 6. All right, Solitude is going to block by the look of things. Jay having a look through both graveyards. Not sure what he's trying to piece together here, but this is a big attack. Attack for 6, and the Solitude, which is currently a 4/3, I believe, is going to block the Rhino. So offers the trade. And Boseiju on the Shardless Agent. As I mentioned before, that's an artifact.
Yeah, you called it, Riley. I mean, I think right now Jay is just trying to, I wouldn't say cheese out a win, but kind of cheese out a win with this Renin 6 Ultimate here. He doesn't have particularly too much going on for him, and Mac has seemingly a good number of spells in his hand, as he hasn't been playing lands every single turn and still has some cards in the script. So he's just really using all of his resources here to protect this Ren as much as he possibly can to try to ultimate.
All right, 1 damage tramples over to the Ren and 6. And now Mac follows it up with another Shardless Agent. Oh, wow. So just when Jay thought he was starting to get his head above water here, this one is met with a counterspell. Okay, so it does have an answer this time to the Crashing Footfalls. Of course, the Shardless Agent will resolve. There's an answer for that waiting in the graveyard. Bring back that Presage you once again.
Yeah, this has been a really good back and forth game, honestly. Like Jay padding up his life total a bit, so he's a little bit less worried about, just dying to these Rhinos immediately. He does have a few turns to kind of try and find an answer, but the 4/4 bodies on this board texture are ginormous in comparison to Kira.
Yeah, that counterspell being met with was that a Force of Negation there that took care of that? Means that Mac back in the driver's seat, but Jay does have a fair few life points to play with thanks to that Solitude. You can see Jay bringing some really terrific boomer energy to this match. He's got his Alpha or his Beta Islands. He's got his Ancient counter spells as well. You do love to see it.
He's got his Cosmic Rebirth.
Yeah,
all just boomer cards. You love to see that.
And then the One Ring played now for Jay here. Protection from everything in the turn. Buys him a really important turn here as well in terms of not taking any damage this time around with 10 power on the battlefield.
Huge. I think he actually Cosmic Rebirthed for that One Ring. So like
right, just to put it in his hand. Yeah, the secret mode, hidden mode.
Yeah, the secret mode, because you can target any permanent. So he's like, yeah, like I'm just gonna grab this One Ring. And the 3 life, incredibly huge too. He doesn't have to really worry about taking any damage from this One Ring. It's not going to be a huge deal any longer. Like if he just untaps with this One Ring, I don't really see how Jay could lose this one.
So the attack can still be made here at Ren and 6, right? So this is still Mac's still getting some value from this turn, even though he can't go after Jay's life total. Getting that Planeswalker off the battlefield is going to make a big difference. So Jay, Besaju in hand, and a bunch more cards now thanks to the One Ring. He's drawn 3 cards off it so far, and has 4 cards in hand. Passes the turn. Isn't benefiting from the protection ability of the One Ring anymore, Noah. So this is an attack for 10. What's Jay's response? Hardcast Solitude. All right, not a bad one, but oh no, says Mac. There's a subtlety on the other side of things.
Huge subtlety here. This could really be a turning point for Mac if Jay doesn't find something quickly off of these next couple of draw steps.
All right, Jay fetches tapped Sacred Foundry. The Hardcast Solitude meeting the Hardcast Subtlety here. Bad news for Jay, who really was going to rely on that Solitude to stabilize the battlefield. Oh, and this is why he fetched, obviously, to put the Solitude on top and draw it again. Besaju, I think that's the 4th time it's been activated this game.
There's been a lot of them. Yeah. It looked like Jay actually had the Subtlety in his hand as well, just not another blue card to pitch to it. So a little unfortunate that he couldn't play back too much there.
Yeah, because now he's staring down a huge... Oh, no! Tishana's Tidebinder once again. Mac running rings around Jay. But there's the Solitude that you saw. Sorry, the Subtlety in hand here for Jay.
Yeah, he kind of has to Subtlety this, I think.
No, he doesn't. Apparently not. No, apparently he doesn't.
Maybe he doesn't have a basic that he can fetch, and that's why he's worried about wanting to draw the 3 cards. I don't know.
All right, passes the turn. Now, the Tishana's Tidebinder at least means that Jay doesn't take damage off of the One Ring, right?
Yeah, it loses all abilities, luckily, so that is a little...
Bit of a saving grace.
Less worrisome, yeah.
So here's the Solitude. It can block the Tishana's Tidebinder to unlock the One Ring just in time for him to take 3 damage. I'm not sure if he can afford to do that. Yeah,
well, he could maybe trade the Solitude with the Rhino, trade the Kahira with the Tidebinder, take 7, gain 4.
The Solitude is still...
Oh, wait, no, he would die. Oh, because he just fetched. But yeah, I guess he's using the Subtlety to block as well.
Okay, so Subtlety comes in.
See, if that's the case, then why not just cast the Subtlety on the Tidebinder? If he was going to Subtlety anyways, he would just have 3 more cards in his hand.
Yes. Curious. In any case, we're going to see a full cleanup here. Jay gains a total of 3 life off this attack because the Rhino tramples over. And so we'll be able to survive this hit from the One Ring here. And 1 card in hand quickly goes to 5 cards in hand, thanks to the One Ring. Jay has to find something because Mac can take no further game actions and win this game here. And Jay doesn't have anything. And the power of the One Ring, too much for Jay to overcome. And so our winner here, Mac on Temur Rhinos. Well done to Mac Endres, continuing an unbeaten run so far, Noah. And these Cascades, at the moment, really do seem to be doing very, very well. Even though we saw Living End sort of crash and burn against Merfolk earlier in the round, Temur Rhinos with some new additions seems to be in a great position.
I couldn't agree with you more, Riley. That was a really, really good game to showcase, I would say, like the different dimensions that this deck has, being able to sorcery speed, put a lot of pressure on play with these Shardless Agents, the Scions of Draco, and then subtlety really, really impressed me in that game in a lot of ways, just it being a really good body for the texture of the matchup, and then just stopping, any sort of creatures from happening on the other end. And I was looking at Mac's list. He doesn't actually have any Tachana's Tidebinders in the main deck. It's just those two in the sideboard. So to see them both come into play in that matchup in specific was so huge for this Temple game plan that he was hoping for.
Yeah, really, really judicious piece of sideboarding there by Mac. So well done to him. A well-deserved win. I believe that Tannen actually caught up with Mac and had a quick word with him about that match. So if everything's in readiness for us to throw to our interview, I believe we're going to be able to actually hear from Mac in the wake of that match. So let's head over now to Tannen and Mac.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Regional Championship. We're here in the interview area brought to you by Heavy Play. I'm Tannen Grayson, joined by Mac Endres. Mac, what a match. I'm exhausted after watching this match between you two. You just won over 4-color-ish control. And honestly, how do you keep your composure in a match that long?
Oh yeah, just so many decisions, so many bluffs. It's like really hard to keep track of it. You just kind of have to go with the flow. I spent a lot of time bluffing spells I didn't have. And if you stutter, you hesitate, you sometimes get got. I don't know how I did it, but you just have to stick to it.
Now, you're playing a variation of Rhinos, the most played deck here in the tournament, but you're playing like the new version of it with Leyline of the Guild Pact. You've got Scion of Draco in it here, and you've got the new lands here that surveil when they come into play. How are you liking these new changes? You were telling me this was kind of a last-minute thing for y'all?
Oh, yeah. Basically, yesterday we were set to play stock Temur Rhinos. Basically everything except for we had like a spicy sideboard card. And as a result, we thought we were pretty locked in, but we got some new news. We saw some prelim results from last night, and we like hard pivoted. But before we could do that, we spent like several hours trying to figure out if this deck was actually better than Temur Rhinos, and I think we made the right decision. It's been pretty great for us.
Yeah, how's the power level of it feeling versus like the variety of decks you've played so far?
Well, not a lot of variety in my opponents, but I really like Scion as just a 4/4 for 2. It's like been very good, especially against my Tron opponents. Just like getting on the board early, attacking. Those were significant upgrades. In general, if you have Splinter Twin, as I've been calling it, if you have the Guild Pact and the Scion, those games feel very easy. Most opponents aren't prepped for it. Very much, there are very few ways to interact with it. My Tron opponents had some O-Stones they didn't draw. My opponent this round had some Supreme Verdicts, but those are largely the exceptions. Most opponents just don't have those sweepers, and they just kind of get locked out. And yeah, I attack for 4-5 times, and they die.
Well, you heard it here first. We do have a Splinter Twin situation going on here in Modern this weekend. Mac, I know you need a little break after that marathon match. Thanks for joining with us, and good luck the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.